Jimmy Kimmel. Well, hello, everybody, and thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. I hope we have a lot of fans of the program here. I guess the first question, if we want to get right into it, is why aren't you in Hawaii shooting new episodes, and instead you're here in North Hollywood talking about how great the show is? All right. Well, did you fly over here together? Because that would be the worst news ever if you're on a plane, wouldn't it? Do you get, I guess that's maybe a good way to just kind of get into this, is do people get weird when you're on the plane with them? Anyone who wants to answer that, feel free to jump in.
Only when I ask for them to go to the restroom with me. They get a little weird.
Oh, really? Yeah. All right. Well, again, thank you all for coming.
They blame you. That's pretty much.
This is a little bit confusing because I can't see everybody, but we'll make the best of it. We have some questions that you guys put into a basket, and I have some questions, and I'm sure some fun stuff will come up. I guess we'll start with JJ, and JJ, sorry JJ, but your name does start with an A, and I guess the best way to start is, how is the show now different than it was when you guys first sat in a room and talked about how we could do this?
Well, first of all, on behalf of more people on the stage and in the audience, thank you for coming. It's exciting for us to be here and to see all you guys. I think when Damon and I first came up with the show, we had a lot of ideas of what we thought it would be and where it would go. But the truth is that you can never know exactly what's going to happen on a series, and especially a series like this that's so detailed and intricate. The reality is that the work that these amazing actors have done, and directors and the writers, it's this weird organic process. So to say it's exactly what we thought 3 years later would not be true. But I think for the most part, yes, there are still sort of headlines that I think we discussed early on. But the truth is what it's become. And my day-to-day work on the show is almost nothing compared to what these guys do. So, in terms of like the day-to-day stuff, obviously, Damon and Carlton and Jack Bender, who's here somewhere, over there, over in Brentwood.
He's got briefcase number 16.
Exactly.
That's good.
That's good. The reality is that what they have done has been remarkable for me to watch too, because what we had discussed early on, hinted at certain things, and they've actually realized them.
So JJ, what you're saying is, while you're jetting around with Tom Cruise jumping on couches and stuff, these guys are hashing out the actual show, and you probably haven't even seen it in the past year or so, have you?
Well, I thought the pilot was cool. But I haven't caught it since.
So Carlton and Damon, perhaps is a better director to you. Maybe I'll refine the question a little bit. Is there an end in mind or a path that you stay on? Because I know that it's been said that there is, and you guys you do have something that you're driving towards. But then JJ says it's flexible, and obviously we see. Anytime a cast member gets a DUI, they get knocked right off the island. That cannot be a coincidence. I know there are a lot of weird coincidences on the show, but it's an interesting thing you've done just to keep everybody on their toes and in line here. But how much of it is stuff that you're generating in that room that week, and how much of it is kind of filling in the blanks along this path that you've decided to take?
Suddenly I'm feeling like this is very much like a Senate hearing. Microphones.
I advise you not to answer that question. As your counsel, no.
Obviously that question or iterations of it is the sort of most frequently asked question of us. Do do you know where you're going? You know, what is the plan? And obviously, from the very beginning, you know, when JJ and I and Bryan Burk and Jeff Pinkner and a guy named Jesse Alexander all sat in a room and talked about how to do the Crazy Island show, you know, we basically started saying, okay, well, you kind of have to know what the Crazy Island is. And that was the beginning of that conversation. And that conversation sort of evolved over the course of the first season of the show. Carlton came on around episode 5. And parts of it are still evolving, but the reality is we know what the island is, what the nature of the island is, and why the people on this particular plane were brought to this island. We know who the others are and where they come from and how long they've been there and why they were brought to this island. But at the same time, there is sort of an improvisational sense of what we're doing every day. So you kind of go into it with the best of intentions. You have goals. You know what food you like, but you don't know what you're going to be eating for dinner 3 years from now. So, you know, if for example, you know, what you like for dinner is driving drunk, then you're never going to eat it again. So, you know, that you just have to adjust accordingly.
Wow.
All right.
Culver City over here, we take cabs.
And
Every person on this panel tonight was given a car.
And each of these supposed bottles of sparkling water is filled to the brim with vodka.
Grey Goose.
Carlton, so let me pose something to you. Let's say I'm a new writer on the show. You've hired me as a writer on the program. Do you sit down with the writer and do you tell him, here's the secret, here's where we're headed?
Yeah, after the paddle ceremony. There's some hazing involved, and thankfully we're not at Duke University.
Oh my God. That's a lesson in crossing a line that you don't want to cross. Note to self, no Duke University
Can you
joke.
kill?
No Duke.
Be the first executive producer killed off the island. So, do you tell them? I mean, will you tell the writer what the whole deal is?
We actually don't tell the new writers right away all of the details. We tell them.
In fact, we tell them we're making it up as we go along, which is a great way to if that writer doesn't work out, have plausible deniability. So for all the new writers here in the room, you know, we actually do know what we're doing.
No, we tell them sort of what we're working on currently, but we don't actually end up. I mean, the end of the show is sort of a planned thing, but it's not really that relevant when we're breaking episode 316. So
Okay.
we don't.
So you wait until you can trust them before you tell them.
basically,
True?
yes.
Now, what about the cast? Do they know?
We don't have a bloody clue.
I don't know what you're talking about. I know.
Evangeline, but who knows?
We still haven't told them what's happening in season 2. So
Really?
we're pacing ourselves.
Are you guys telling the truth? None of you know none of you cast members? Matthew, you got to know.
I do know.
You do know.
He also lies.
Oh, this is like a congressional hearing then. Now, we talked about, obviously, everyone knows about the various people that have been removed from the island. They're not here with us tonight. And I'll throw this to any members of the cast. Do you feel any paranoia? Is there paranoia that goes through? Because since you don't know what the story is and you don't know what's going to happen day in, day out on the show, and it seems like you guys are willing to kill off just about anybody. Is this something you worry about? You don't know. And is this Yunjin, you can answer that. It looks like.
Well, all I want to say is I'm allergic to alcohol. And seriously, I'm allergic to alcohol. So
yeah. So are the other
I'll
ones.
stop
yeah.
right there.
But even, let's say, we're not just punishing people for misdeeds, but, sometimes the plot, as the plot thickens, some people have to die on the island. In fact, most of you have killed, character-wise. Raise your hand if your character has killed someone so far on the program. Well,
Next episode.
But there were others.
You know,
there were others.
Somebody. Didn't you? Technically, you killed somebody. Yeah.
Daniel doesn't know this yet, but he should probably raise his hand.
Oh, really?